In the midst of the great resignation that's taking place right now in the year 2021, although the numbers are pretty big, like in June of this year, of 2021, according to the federal statistics on jobs, it shows that the Labor Bureau is saying that 3.9 million people voluntarily resigned in June and another 4.3 million in August. Now, although these numbers are pretty big and they seem like they're pretty much, and also there's 10 million jobs opening, it may feel like how are we even going to retain these top talents that are voluntarily quitting? However, things aren't really, doesn't have to be that bad for you as an organization leader. As you're leading different teams, or if you're leading an organization, there are certain things you can do right now to help prevent more of your talent leaving the organization and at the same time attract more talent. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Like, how can you attract and retain more talent in the midst of the great resignation or the great attrition, as some others would put it. So if we haven't met before, my name is Fahim Karim, and I'm an employee engagement expert, and I work with companies that are growing and are purpose-driven, and I help them by creating a safe container where everyone gets to vocalize their opinions and their ideas without being put down. The managers get to listen and lead. Your employees feel empowered and part of the team, and your company continues to grow and innovate. And I would love to hear from you. Where are you watching us from the live? And put in the comments, what are some of the challenges you may be facing when it comes to the great resignation that's taking place right now in terms of retaining talent? What are some of the things you have found to be quite effective? Or what are some of the things that you didn't find were as effective and you would love to, maybe those are some of the challenges that you're facing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the comments. So as someone who has worked in the corporate America for more than 2 decades in one of the largest financial institutions, and someone who has already lived in 4 different continents with experiences with different cultures and talent across the globe, I am very passionate about how to empower your teams. And this is something that I don't just share with you simply based on my research, but actually things that I've applied and also things that are also based on research, so that you're getting the best advice and the strategies that you can apply right now today. So today we're going to cover a lot of things. So without taking up too much time, I'm going to cover in 2 aspects. One of the thing is, what can you do as a leader of individual team members? What are some of the things you can do right now? And what can you do as a leader of leaders, as a manager of managers? Those are 2 aspects. Now here's the good news. According to Gallup, 52% of those employees that quit voluntarily said that their managers or their organization could have done something to keep them, to not have them leave the organization. So that's a great finding, because that means it's not all dull and gloom, right? It's not that their employees are just looking to quit. They at some level, they're looking to add meaning to their life by working for this organization that they're in right now, because they worked it for so long. However, because they're not being heard, or they're not given the opportunity to express their need, that is probably when it reaches the point where they can't take it. So again, this is great data. So what can you do as a leader of individual team members? Number 1, be clear on your role, right? What is your role as a leader? You might have been a superstar, right? You were somebody who was able to take things on your own and get it done. But right now, you have people who are working for you, and as your role as a leader is to get the thing done by the team, right? You're no longer the superpower. You're no longer the superstar. Your job, your role as a leader is to create other leaders. That's how I define leaders. A leader is one who creates other leaders. So understand your role. Your role is not to do everything. No, your role is not to come up with all the ideas. Your role is to make your team shine, make them feel like they can do this, and you're just there to facilitate it. Okay? And how can you do that? Number one, coach them, right? Coach individually, each one. Managing, people really don't like to be told what they do, right? This is was a survey done that how many of you like people to tell you what to do, right? Most people said no, we don't like it, right? So coaching is the way to go as a leader. Coach your team. Ask your individual team member, what is the dream? What is their aspiration? Where do they see themselves? What is it that drives the batteries of their life, right? What is it that when they do, they feel energized? What is it that they, even if they spend their whole day doing it, they don't feel drained after it? Because that's what drives them. That's what gives them the juice of life, right? So understand what is it that is their dream that they want to achieve, what is the ultimate goal, and help them, because you're a part of their journey. Help them reach that. By you doing that, you're coaching them, right? How can you do that more better? See them. Let them feel seen and heard. What do I mean by seen? You see, not everybody, what I mean by that is you are truly listening to them and you're trying to understand exactly what they're going through. It's not just visual, right? Because we're not in person. Sometimes we're not visually able to see others, but to truly listen to them, understand them, and respect them. By you respecting them, you're showing them that you see them, right? So, and we're going to cover that a little bit more, how to show respect to them, and some of the basic things, really, but sometimes we forget about that. Number one, make them feel supported and safe. Actually, number three, make them feel supported and safe. How do you do that? Safe is that they can vocalize their dissents or their, like, for example, let's say you present an idea, guys, this is what I want to do this year, or this is what I'm planning to do in this particular project. They may have an insight that is just screaming out in their head saying, this is not going to work. Doesn't he get it? Or doesn't she get it? Right? And they may not be as articulate as you are in expressing their dissent. They may just, right? And you may not like to hear the way they express their dissent, but prepare yourself for that. Make an excuse for them. You know what? They never went through the communication training I went through, so why do I expect them to be always like excellent in expressing their dissent, right? So by you letting them say, tell me more, what exactly I did not getting, tell me more. And coach them by letting them know, guys, if there is something you feel strongly about that I'm not getting, say it in this way, like, hey, Fahim, I really like, Fahim, you are always coming with awesome ideas, right? It's great. But tell me a little bit more, because I'm not very clear exactly what the goals are. Let me see if I understood you right, Fahim. Is this what we're trying to achieve? And it may be that that person misunderstood what you're saying. Or can you please share with us a little bit more assumptions that you have? What are some of the assumptions you're making? Well, I didn't tell you guys, we're getting this additional resource. Oh, guys, this is what what is in the horizon. Oh, now I see how that's going to happen, Fahim. So by you being open to that kind of a dissent, coaching them, guys, feel free to dissent, but do it in a nice way, do it this way, and I'll be happy to share more. They will be like, okay, this is great. We feel safe and we feel supported, right? Next is get to know them at a personal level, right? Please get to know them. At a personal level, learn what are the things that is important to them. Is it family? Is it travel? Is it a nonprofit? Is it something about impact? And then connect their job, their role to that. Allow them to do that as well, right? If it is something they want, the family is important to them, allow them to be with their family. Perhaps it's flexibility at work. Where do they work from? That may be one thing. So that's what I want to cover for the part that you can do as a leader of other individual team members. Now switching gear as a leader of other leaders. as a manager of managers, what can you do right now in the midst of this great resignation? Number one, ensure that your leaders are treating those who quit, who are resigning, that they treat them with respect and dignity, right? Because it's so important when that person is resigning, who has served you for years, served you for whatever number of period, they really served with sincerity, whether we believe it or not, right? And even if they didn't, we do the right thing as leaders. We treat others with respect. I love this one analogy, actually a true story from the life of Jesus, peace be upon him. One day, he was walking with his disciples, and some of the people that they passed by had said some really horrible things to him. And instead of screaming back and saying horrible things back to them, he said some nice things to them. And his disciples were kind of perplexed, like, these people really were mean to you, they said some horrible things to you. How come, Jesus, you were nice to him? He said, give what you have, right? If you have good, give good, right? So your employee, maybe it was a disgruntled employee, maybe it's good riddance, they're leaving, but don't make them feel that way. Don't show disrespect to them. You take the upper road, you show them respect, because the way you're going to treat the people who are resigning, whether you're right or wrong, people are watching you, and they're going to register, okay, this is how he's going to treat me. This is how she's going to treat me, right? Number two, don't backstab people when they're not around. Teach your managers to do that. Teach your leaders to do that. Guys, don't backstab others when they're not around, right? And then for the interest of time, I'm just going really fast. Next, teach them some of the basics. Remind them some of the basics. Number one, don't roll your eyes when you're listening to your team members, right? Don't do that. Then don't look at your screen or your phone when somebody's speaking to you. Very basic. We forget those things. And then that's I'm going to stop there. So let me know, what are some of the questions you have when it comes to employees that are thinking about quitting, or you have a high turnover? What are some of the challenges you're facing? Please feel free to put those in the comments here in the Facebook, whether you're watching that live or you're watching this as a pre-recorded at a later time. Lastly, I want to share with you is, as a leader of other leaders, you have to also have what I call tough love, right? And I want to give an example of the CEO, Hubert Joly. And he was the former CEO and chairman of Best Buy and the director of Carlson, a global hospitality and travel conglomerate, right? So I love the example that he gives. When he's trying to decide who is going to be a leader in his organization in Best Buy, he was referring to Best Buy, he said, one of the things I used to ask people, like, who are you serving? Now, if you're serving the CEO or your boss or yourself, that's good. Nothing wrong with that. But we're not going to have you. I'm sorry, right? We are going to, in that case, we're just going to promote you to our customer. We'll treat you so nice, but we can't have you working here, right? If you're not in the business of serving others, I'm sorry, we cannot have you as a leader here, right? So it is something, it's very important. When you're seeing one of your direct leaders that are reporting to you is having a lot of high turnover rate, you have to really understand what's going on. You have to look into that leader may be a problem, right? And I forget the name of the other leader. He had a person he had attended one of the meetings where that particular person who used to report to him was leading. And in that meeting, he yelled at some of his people really badly. And even though that direct report to him was a very valuable employee, a very valuable resource, he pulled him over after the meeting. He said, you know what? Losing you is going to be very expensive for me. But you know what? If I see you yelling at your team one more time, I don't care who's wrong, whose side, who's right, I'm going to fire you publicly, right? So this is so important, because you can't just have one great leader who's a real nightmare to his team, even though he's a high performer, just ruin the entire culture. Like I give the example of a strawberry. Like, if you're in the U.S., you bring strawberry, the nice big box with strawberries inside. all of a sudden there's one rotten strawberry. And that strawberry just ruins all the other strawberries nearby. And research shows that by a professor in Stanford who studies really in great detail bad bosses and the impact they have on employees, that even being in 50 feet proximity of a bad leader, people are impacted and they in turn become negative. And it spreads like, much faster than anything that is good. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what are some of the challenges you're facing in your organization when it comes to retention or attracting talent. The good news is when you implement these, you will be able to attract more talent. Why is that? Because another research shows that more than 70% of the people who apply to jobs are based on what they heard from people who work in that organization. So by you creating that culture where everybody feels safe and they're able to vocalize and they feel part of the team, you'll be attracting more talents, even in the midst of this great resignation, because there are still amazing companies that are out there that have amazing corporate culture and people are enjoying working there, and it's not all that dull and gloom, and you can change all of that, even if you're seeing some of that in your organization. So until we meet next time, my friend, God willing, tread softly, speak kindly, and love unconditionally.